Hi everyone. Today we're going to work on our porches and our decks. I'm going to tell you this video is going to be a little bit longer because they are kind of involved. But what you see on the screen right now, and let me pan over so you can see, I've started this. I'm going to go back and do this and show you how I've done it. But if you notice, there are columns here. These are called piers. These are columns. And there's more work to be done on this. I'm going to take these back out and do them so you can see me doing them. And then I'm going to go ahead and show you, I've created one down here. This is what your deck's going to look like from the back. As you can tell, it's pretty detailed. But it can be done in a fairly simple amount of time, but it does take a little bit of work. The thing about this though, when we show the deck in the back, we will see it right here. We're going to have to trim and cut out some of the door stuff and things to make it work. But the deck will also appear here in the right side. And of course, the porch and the columns and stuff will appear here on the right side. So it's not just what happens in the front and the back, because it's that ripple effect where we get it in the sides as well. We may not go into quite as much detail. We will put the railings on for the deck. We probably won't show the individual stairs going down, but we'll show, where the stairs are located at and stuff like that. We'll get into that and we'll figure out what we're going to do as we go along. So anyway, let's look here at the porch first. Yesterday we put the roof on the porch. Again, I'm going to move all of this out of the way for the time being. I came back in, like I said, and did these this morning, just to sort of get my head wrapped around what I wanted to do with it. And that's a good thing. Anytime you're doing a project, always sort of get ahead of it. Now I'm just going to move these down and just slide them down here out of the way. Okay? So this is what we had yesterday. We didn't even have these. So when we're dealing with the porch, this was the lines that we had yesterday. So what we've got to do to start with, just some simple things. I start off real basic. Again, I'm using nominal numbers. I'm going to put some decking on here. I do want our porch to be solid underneath. You can have an open porch, and you can go under that and put lattice work, which is the looks like woven wood underneath it. But we're probably just going to do ours solid underneath. But I do want to show the piers going down to the ground. Remember, the piers is the bottom parts of these down here. Okay. So let's get started, and again, we're going to do just some simple offsets now. I'm going to just go, and our deck boards are typically an inch, is what they are. They're called, you can buy 5/4 boards, which is thicker than an inch. To get the detail to show up, you might want to go 2 inches just for it to look better sometimes. So we'll come down, and you always make sure it goes down. If you notice here, I wasn't careful and it went up. So I'm going to go down here and I'm going to get rid of the top one. So there's that. Now, from the top of the porch to the ground is 2 feet. Again, we're going to keep this really simple on this because we are drawing an elevation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to offset 8 inches from the top down. And that's the top of my step. And I can go ahead and offset these down too if I want to. It leaves a lot of line here that we've got to do. But what we need to do here is, when we do these offsets, just keep it simple again. Okay, so there's that. Now the center of our door is what that is centered on up top. So, as far as our porch, and those steps were 5 feet wide. So, if I measure out from the center, and I could draw a line from the middle of this, or I could just, offset either one. The easiest thing that I found to do is just draw me a line down like this. The steps are 5 feet wide, so I'm not going to do 30 inches because that's half of 60. So right there's how wide my steps are. And I should check and see if that does line up. And sure enough, it's right on top of it, okay? I could have just projected that down. That would have been just as simple. Either one will have worked, okay? So there's the width of my steps. I'm going to delete that. And now I'm going to just do some trimming and cleaning up. I can get rid of these out to the outside edges because there lays my steps pretty quick. This is going to go across. The only thing is when we put in these piers and columns, they're going to interrupt this band here, this 2-inch band. So that's something we do need to be aware of, okay? So we're going to go 36 inches high off of the deck as far as where we're going to go with our piers. So I'm going to offset 36 inches. And of course it goes right through the doorknob because that's where that's at. I'm going to project this up. Now I'm going to tell you, it may be easier to work on this one first just because it's out in the open and doesn't get into this window over here. So let's come over here and work, okay? I'm going to go ahead and drag this up to here. Okay, now I'm going to make these, we decided to make these piers, if we go back up into the view and look at them right here, if we measure these are 1'6" wide, so 18 inches. So offset 18 inches. So right there's my pier, okay? And that's where that's going to sit at. So now, like I said, I can come back in and go trim, and those deck boards are going to be behind that pier, just like that, okay? So let's go back down and look at what we've got again, our detail. So if you notice, we've got the pier, I've got a cap on top of it, and then I've got a post sitting on top of that. So I'm going to go ahead and put the cap on top of it. I made that cap 3 inches thick. So if I measure from here to here, and again, this is just for looks, you're probably not going to pour them that thick. 3 inches is a good thickness on there. Some people do make them that big because it's holding up some weight. So offset 3. There's that. I'm going to do an overhang of 1 inch just to give it some detail. So offset 1 inch. And now once I get that done, I'm going to come in and I'm going to use my fillet command with a radius of 0 and clean this up. There we go. So there's my cap. Pretty straightforward, pretty easy, okay? Now at the bottom, I'm also going to come in and I'm going to put a 2-inch pedestal and top for my column. So I'm going to go offset 2. We'll offset this down 2 and offset this up 2. Okay? Now I'm going to draw me a line from the middle of this straight up because this is going to end up coming in handy. I'm going to use a tapered column. This could be round, this could be tapered. In my mind, I see it as tapered, so it's flat on the sides. So when I do that, you want to come up with an aesthetically pleasing taper. You don't want it too narrow, you don't want it too big. If you start noticing columns and posts and stuff, you're going to notice some of them look funny on some houses. So let's look and see what I've done here. So if I measure all the way across the bottom, that's 1 foot across the bottom. And across the top, if I go back into my measure command, instead of quick measure, it's 8 inches across the top. So what I can do is I can offset 6 inches. And then offset again 4 inches. And now what I'm going to do, and of course I am working in the wall layer, if you haven't noticed. Now I'm going to draw me a line from here to here. Okay? So that's got that in the right place. The good part about this is, the measurement from here to here is 2 inches. So that actually gives me a good distance for my top cap. So I can put that right there. Okay? I'm going to go ahead and trim some now. I'm going to trim out this just to get that where I want it. And I'm going to go ahead and trim out that. Okay? Now this line here can go away. And as you can see, there's the start of my taper. I'm going to go ahead and mirror this line and this line around the center that I did. So there it is. See how quickly that comes into play? Now I can go back into trim and I can trim out on this side. So there we go. Still got my center line. So now I do want to come over 2 inches each way from here. So I'm going to come down, I'm going to hover over this point, I'm going to drag across and say 2 inches. That's my point. And I can do the exact same thing here, hover, drag across, say 2 inches for my first point, and down. And now, of course, I can either use trim or I can drag the grips. So, just that quick, there's that column made. I'm going to delete my center line now. So as you see, I've got them in place. Well, I've got one on the other side of the step, so I'm just going to go to copy. I'm going to copy all of it. And think about this. I want this, these are identical, so I'm going to grab the outside edge and put it on the inside edge. So there's that. Now I can get rid of that line. Okay, so that's the right place. Now what I need is I need to put these over here at the other place. I need to put them on both corners. So I'm going to say copy, and I'm going to copy. I will end up with a double line, but in this case I'm going to let it ride because it's just easier. I'm going to copy that over to here, and I'm going to come back in. I'm going to copy it again, but this time I'm going to grab it by the other side. Going from here to the edge to here. Okay? So that pretty much cleans it up. Now what we can do is we can click on this line, drag it all the way up to the edge there, and do the same thing on this side, and drag it all the way up to our roof there. Okay? And see, we had a little line left over that I missed, so I need to delete that. So now look at that. It kind of cleaned it up, didn't it? So I'm going to go back into trim, select all. I'm going to get rid of my decking boards in the middle of my columns. Okay, so there we go. That's got that cleaned up. Now the only issue we've got is right here. Notice that my window is behind these piers and columns. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to select, see, because this is behind it, I'm going to have to explode that window. Okay? And I'm going to have to make sure I explode it a couple of times to make sure we get rid of everything we want to get rid of. And that way everything's an individual line. So now I exploded, it took me 3 times. Now I'm going to go back into trim. I'm going to select my piers and columns. I want to get all of these as cutting edges. Okay, it doesn't matter if I get a couple of extras down there at the bottom, that's okay. Now, you can start at the top, you can start at the bottom, just be consistent. So now the objects that I want to trim. I'm just going to get here in the middle of this, and I'm going to come down through here. And what happened right there was I was still in my select mode. So I'm going to get out and I'm going to come back in again because I want y'all to see that. One more time, I want it to be nice and clean. Okay, if you notice, I am having to hand pick these to get them. And we may have to do a couple of trims to get everything. So I've got everything selected as my cutting edge. Now I'm going to come in here and I'm going to start cutting some stuff out. And if you notice, some things go really quick. But then when I get down into here, this is where I've got to really pay attention. Because when I zoom in, look, I've got a little corner there. Look right here. Here's a little bitty one. Okay? There's where it gets back out of it. Now I'm going to zoom on out again. I'm going to click on this one. I want to get rid of all of these and that. Zoom down here. I want to get rid of all of these. Okay? Get rid of that. Let's get rid of all of these. Look up, here's another one that I can get rid of. Let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of that. Okay? And anything that's left inside now, we will have to come back in later and just erase. So that's everything on that side. Now let's go for this side. So I'm going to get rid of all this, come down in here, and again, we're going to have some overlap, so we need to find where we overlap at. Look, way in here. Look how far I had to zoom in to get that. Okay. See, by staying zoomed in fairly tight, now as I come down, they get bigger and they get easier to see, and now I can grab 3 at one time. Okay, I'm going to keep right on coming. Okay, and you got to be careful because if you don't, you'll trim something out that you don't want to. I could accidentally trim out my column right there if I wasn't careful, and my caps. Okay, so let's get rid of all these. And then when we zoom back out, that's pretty much it. Now all I'm going to do, if you notice, I escaped out of the command. Now I'm going to come back in. I'm going to erase or delete the objects that's still inside of them. And there it is. So there's my porch cleaned up real nice and neat. I do need a skirt underneath here because you've got the wood underneath holding it. And I'm going to put a, I'm going to do a 12-inch. It really doesn't need it, but I'm going to do it. That's too big. So, you know, I look at it and go, no, that's not right. I'm going to do an 8. So I'm going to offset this down 8. And offset this down 8. And that matches us up right there, okay? So now what we've got, this will be brick under here and this will be brick under here. This is all wood here that we're seeing, okay? So pretty straightforward on that. That's our porch. And if we notice, we left this line across here because this is a gable coming out at us, okay? So that's how we do those, pretty quick. We'll hatch later. In other words, we'll put the brick on there later. That'll be our next assignment. Now right here, I can go ahead and take care of this as well. If you notice I didn't put any railings or anything here, this porch is only 2 feet off the ground. We don't need any railings. We're okay. Okay? So what I need is I need a post here showing, And what I can do is I can come in, I'm just going to zoom in and get, because these are the same on all 4 sides. Oops, accidentally did that. I wanted to go to copy and get one post. I'm going to grab it on the outside edge because I'm going to move it to an outside edge right there. Okay. Now I'm going to take this and I'm going to drag this up. And I look at it and go, you know what? I don't even need it at all. So I can delete that. Okay. And then of course I'm going to drag this back. So there we go. And every once in a while when you do the drag command, it will disappear by accident. If you just hit undo, it'll come right back for you. Okay. So that's in the right place. I need to show the edge of my steps. Now we did 8-inch steps, pretty straightforward, pretty simple. I also need my skirt under here. So what I can do is I can come in here and I can copy this. I'm just going to grab it right there. I'm going to slide over to here and put it in. And now I'm going to use the extend command and I'm going to push this out. I'm going to push that out. Okay. And I got one extra line there that I'm just going to delete. I'm going to check, make sure that's on the wall layer because I'll use that again later. So steps coming down. We are going to make these real generic steps, nothing fancy. We're going to offset 10 inches. We only need 2, okay, because our top step's up here at the very edge. And now what we're going to do is, because we made them 8 inches, we're going to keep it really, really, really simple. I'm going to do a line. I'm going to hover here. I'm going to drag up. And I'm going to say 8 inches. That's the top of my step. I'm going to hover here, and I'm going to drag up, and I'm going to say 8 inches. And that's my top of that step. I'm going to offset down 1 inch. And I'm going to offset out 1 inch. Okay? And then I'm going to fillet this out. What I've just done is I've created what's called the bull nose. Okay? Or the edge, the outer edge of the step. There we go. So pretty clean, pretty straightforward. Now I'm going to use the trim command. And I'm going to highlight both edges of this because I want to get rid of these. Okay? And I want to get rid of this. I could have just used the bottom edge. Now, notice what we've got here. We've got another line here. I'm going to take this and back this up to here. Okay? So see, there's my steps coming down. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Nothing much to it, okay? So that's all the detail I'm going to do for my porch there and my front. We're done with that. Now let's go over here and work on the deck. Y'all, like I said, look at this deck. It is really, really, really busy, okay? But it's not as difficult as it appears. So we'll go through it pretty quick and pretty simple. I'm going to move this one on down out of the way. Actually, I'm just going to slide it over here to the side so we can refer back to it if we need to. And then that way, if I need to show you something, we can. Okay? So there it is. And I've got it pretty close now so we can work on it. All right, so when I start my deck, I'm going to do the exact same thing. Remember, this is my floor height. I'm going all the way down to the ground. And I need to figure out how many steps I've got in the intermittent area. So how many steps am I going to have? Well, I did the math earlier. And if I do 14 steps, it gets up to like 7 11/16 for steps, which is not bad. If I do 15 steps, it's 7 3/16. So I'm going to do 15 steps. You will have one step that'll be odd. If you do, put the odd step, the taller step. You always want the taller step at the bottom, not at the top. Okay? You don't want a little bit short step down at the bottom ever if you can help it, because that's a tripping hazard. Thank goodness it's down on the ground, but that could be a problem. Okay? So we're going to make them all coming down, so I'm going to work off of this level. And I need to do a couple of things just to get started. So what I'm going to do is, this is here. All this is in the way. I drew this down here out of the way so I could get it clean and I would slide it up. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to draw me another line down. And I'm going to go ahead and use the same height. It doesn't matter what height. I'm just drag it down even further than that. I'll just make these the same height. Okay? So there's that. And of course, now what I want is I'm just going to go copy, and I'm going to copy these two lines. And I'm going to use this base point, and I'm going to just put it at this height just because that'll get it at the same height as my other step, okay, that I drew. So now what I've got is I've got my finished floor height at first floor. I've got my floor height at the basement, okay. So let's get started on this, how we need to do this. So we've got the outer edge of the porch. We know for a fact that we're going to use 4x4s in the corner. So I'm going to go ahead and inset 4 inches each way, okay? If I go back up and look here, I've got a landing that is 4 feet by 4 feet, okay? So 4 feet out. So if you look in here, when I zoom in, what I have done is from out to out is 4 feet. That's the landing, okay? So I'm going to offset 48 inches, the outer edge in, and now I'm going to offset that line back in 4 inches for the post. So my 4 feet is between the outer edges. That's the landing that you would stand on up here before you started down the steps. Okay? Let's go ahead and trim that up and clean it up with our grade level so we can see. There we go. So see, now we've got them on the ground. Looks pretty good. Let's do the same thing out here. Okay, so we got them cleaned up. Looks pretty good. So now what do we need to do? Well, again, I'm going to put my decking board in. I'm just going to use a 1-inch decking board, so I'm going to offset 1 inch. Okay, I'm going to get that in. And the reason why I went ahead and did that is just because it sort of gets it out of the way for me for right now. Okay, the next thing that I want to do is I do want to come in and I want to start laying out my stairs and where I want them to be. Okay, so if we look back at this, if you notice, if I do a line and I catch the front edge of this and go to here, I just went down 2 steps. If you notice, it catches the front edge every time of the stringer. Now this is my stringer, okay? This is what we lay the steps on. So I'm going to delete that. Now, we're not telling the person how to build this. What we're doing is we're telling the person the way we want it laid out, okay? So remember that. They're going to build them correctly. Contractors will build them correctly. We're going to draw them by code, but they may make a little tweak here and there, and that's okay. So I'm going to offset 10 inches. There's that. And I'm going to do that several times out across here. Now remember, we said 15, right? Did you keep count? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I'm going to draw the 15th one. We may not end up using that one. Okay? So there we go. Now we've got that laid out correctly. Now if we come back in and look again, if I measure from the top of the deck to the top of that stairs, it's 7 3/16. So now that we've got these laid out this way, what we're going to do is we are going to lay out the 7 3/16. I'm going to go back into offset. I'm going to tell it 7-3/16. That way, if you don't know what your decimal equivalent is, you can do that. Just remember, you have to put a dash between the whole inch and the fraction. If you don't, it's going to say 73/16. That's not right. And you cannot put a space. If you try to use a space in here, AutoCAD recognizes a space, the very same thing as an enter key. So you have to put the dash, okay? So make sure you do that. All right, so remember, I'm going to hit enter. I'm going to get the top of my decking board down. Okay? And I'm going to keep working my way down. So look. And when we get down toward the bottom, you're going to be able to see exactly where we're going to. I'm going to zoom out a little bit so you can see. We could use the copy command. So right there, that's the last one I need. Okay? And again, if you notice, this one is going to be just slightly taller. See, it's 7 3/8, so it's 3/16 higher. Okay? So let's trim up a little bit and clean it up so we can see. We know what our steps end here. Okay? And we know we go all the way out to here. Okay? So let's trim some of this out and get rid of it. Okay, so that makes it a little bit clearer. Now it's a grid pattern, right? Now then, now what we want to do, now again, I'm going to clean it up again right here by doing this. I'm going to offset my 1-inch deck board again. So 1 inch down. And I'm going to put a bullnose on it. I'm going to come out 1 inch. So right there. Now watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to fillet these edges. Here, zoom in to here, here to here. Look, right there's my deck board. How cool, ain't that neat? So that's going to be my stair tread right there. So now I'm going to go to copy. I'm going to hit enter by accident. I'm going to copy all of this. And now remember, we use the top of the board. So I'm going to use the top back edge because that's what I've got every time out through here. So I'm going to hit enter. I'm going to grab the top back edge, and now I'm going to walk my way down on a diagonal. And get us down to the ground. And there's my last one. I don't need one on the bottom because that is the ground, okay? So that's pretty simple right there. The good part about this now, once I get that done, is I can get rid of all my horizontals right here. I can delete them. Look, cleaned it up nicely, didn't it? Okay? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my top boards to trim back. So I'm going to go into trim. And I'm doing this on purpose. I know it takes a little bit of time to do it this way, but if I do a select all, it's actually slower in the long run. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and get all of these, and I might have missed one, so I may have to back up and look and see. Zoom out. Nope, I got them all. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get every one of my bottom ones. Hit enter. Now get every one of my bottom ones to trim. Shoot, I still selected them as cutting edges, but that's okay. All right. Now there's an issue with this. I accidentally did it too short. I should have got the bottom edge. Okay. Either way, you're going to have to trim or extend one of the two. So let's undo that. Let's come back in again. Let's go ahead and use, let's use select all and see what we've got. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is get rid of all the bottom ones. Click. There they go. Okay. Pretty smooth, pretty slick. Now what we want to do is, here's where you are going to have to zoom in. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get rid of these. Now if you notice, I'm leaving that other board, the top edge right there. Y'all, there are multiple ways of doing this. I'm not going to tell you that one way is better than the other, but we're going to sort of need this edge up here in a minute. We could have used another place as our base point. But since I've got this working down the line, I'm going to go ahead and do it this way. Okay, so there we go. All right. Look, we don't need this one, so let's just delete it completely. Okay. So there we go. There's our steps coming down. Now what I'm going to do again, I'm going to come back in, and I'm going to grab right here, and I'm going to go all the way down to right here, and it should pass through every single one of those points, and it does. I'm going to offset up, because our handrail is supposed to be 36 inches up. So I'm going to offset up 36 inches. There's the top of my handrail, okay? Now then, what I'm going to do here is, you know, we need to have, this stringer's got to be cut out of a piece of wood, and you don't know, is it a 2x10, is it a 2x8, is it a 2x12? Well, you could try several boards. Let's offset 8 and just see what happens. So we offset 8. Ooh, that's not thick enough. Look, it don't leave any real material underneath each corner. So to be safe, let's go ahead and do a 12. Let's do a 2x12 to cut these stringers out of. Okay? So there's the bottom edge of our stringer. See it going up through there? So let's go to trim. I'm going to get rid of the bottom edge of this. Now up here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim this back to that post, okay? Just for the time being. We may come in and do some work on this again in a minute. So there, we've got that done. So this is the top of it. I'm going to offset it down 2 inches. Again, we're doing this for looks right now. It may be made differently on the site. We're just doing it as a presentation. When we get this done, some people do have a skirt underneath their handrail. As you notice, I've got one drawn here. I'm going to go back in and let me see if I've got a picture of it. I do here. So if I go here, if you notice what we've got, here's that skirt board underneath it, okay, and then the handrail up top. So we are going to do that. So let's come in and put a skirt board underneath the handrail. So, you know, we're going to take a 4-inch wide board and turn it up on its edge. So I'm just offsetting the bottom line down 4 inches. So there's my top, there's my bottom, there's my skirt. Okay, so it looks really good now. So that's got that kind of cleaned up really nice. And you know what? Our rail up here on top. Now for residential, 36 inches. If it's multifamily or commercial, it's 42 inches. But we're going to do 36. So I'm going to offset 36 inches again from here, the top of the deck board up. I'm going to do the exact same thing. 2 inches down and then 4 inches down. because I need all this, go ahead and lay it out so it'll be at the right place, okay? So that's going to need to be there. I'm going to go ahead and extend. I'm going to go to extend, and I'm going to trim these back later, but I'm going to use that top edge of that board just to get them on up there where they need to be. Now then, we need to put our railings in here. We're going to use 2-inch railings. So I've got a bottom one here, right there. And now, because the depth of these, if I measure between this edge, I'm going to come up here where we can see it. If I measure from here to here, we've got 8 inches. We can't be that wide. So I'm going to have to put in another baluster or picket, whatever you want to call it. Baluster is the term, in here. So, you know, my distance, we are using 2-inch. So again, I'm going to come up here. I'm going to draw me a line just to show you. So that's an 8-inch line. Now I'm going to hover in the middle. Now here's the deal. We're using 2-inch, so I need to go from the middle over 1 inch and down. Now I can take and extend this up to there because that's as far as it's going to go. Now offset that 2 inches. And again, I can grab this and drag it up to there. Right there's where it's going to go. I'm going to go ahead and use the trim command. And I'm going to trim these back and get these in the right place and get the right length. Okay, so there. There's my bottom 2 done. That quick, okay? So now I need them on every step like that. So I'm going to go to copy. I'm going to get both of these. And again, I can use this top corner. I could have used the bull nose. There's several places I could use, but I'm going to use the top corner because I've got that on every single step. Make sure you get the right point. Okay, because if you don't, you'll put it in the wrong place. This is one reason why you like to zoom in while you're working so you can see what you're getting. Sometimes you might get the X, sometimes you might get the box there. Now that I've got that done, I can go ahead and get rid of all these. Yes, I'm going to delete them. And there we go. Nice and clean and got it laid in, okay? I don't need this line here anymore, so I can delete it. Now, how much over am I going to hang that rail? Well, I'm going to just take a simple number. I'm going to do a 4-inch horizontal offset. Okay, and now I'm going to fillet that. To that. I'm going to offset a couple inches just for a look. And now I'm going to fillet this to this, because this will usually hang over. If you don't do this, if you make it square, it's okay. If you notice on this one, I made it square. On this one, I made it hang over. Whichever way you'd rather do it. You know, let's go ahead now, just for the sake of it, to make them consistent. Let's go ahead and make them square. Okay? So I could either use the extend or the fillet command. Either one will work. So there we go. So there's my steps done. That quick, okay? So now what we need to do is we need to come up in here and worry about the rest of the deck itself. So, you know, again, we're going to have a banding board down here at the bottom. I'm going to offset, and I'm going to use a 2x12. So 12 inches down will get us in the right place, and that's from the bottom of the deck board. Remember, we did that 1 inch up here. Okay. Now, this sticks out past the post because the band goes outside the post. I'm going to offset 2 inches. Okay. So there's my band. I'm going to come in. I'm going to go ahead and trim up some stuff so we can get it looking good. Okay. So I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to get rid of that. Okay. Now, my decking board, there will be a slight overhang here. I'm just going to do 1 inch because if you get too far out there, it kind of looks funky. So again, I'm going to trim that back, and clean that up. Look at that. And then I'm going to come in here. There we go. Okay. So that's what that edge will look like. Pretty neat, huh? So we get that cleaned up looking good. Remember, that's the banding board. So what we want to do is we want to come back in and we want to trim up. And what do we not see here? Well, we won't see the post here and here. Okay. We'll set it back up and we'll start seeing it again. We probably won't put a piece of decking out here, so I'm going to clip that out like that. And there we go. That cleans up that edge. Same thing for the handrail. If you notice out here on my handrail, we've got it offset here. Okay. And if I measure from here to here, it's a 2 inch offset. And I went ahead and put a 2 inch offset on top of that for the flat rail. Okay. Again, they're going to build it a little bit different probably. That's okay. So there, I do that. I'm going to go into trim. I'm going to grab all these as my cutting edges so I can keep it simple. Zoom in and get rid of what I don't want. Okay. Let's get rid of that and get rid of that. There we go. Now let's zoom in and get rid of these again. What else do we not want, okay? Well, look, this is above, actually above where we're at. So at that point, I could get rid of all this and just delete it. So see, there's my rail starting to take shape. Here, my handrail, if I click the bottom of this, it's going to stop right there, okay? And again, I can come in, I can clean up here. So I can go into trim, and I can trim out that because we won't see that, and I can trim out that. So there's my deck board, all right? So this starts that. Now we're going to come in and put in our pickets. So let's put in the pickets now. And what we're going to do to get these put in is we need to do our spacing. We've got a couple of things we need to look at. You know, we talked about the 4-inch post out here. I'm going to click on this and just drag it down to get it to the right height. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and click on this one and drag it down and get it to the right height as well. So there's that. I'm going to hit escape. Now I want the very same end that I've got here. So I'm going to draw me a line. This is just to get it there easy. I'm going to draw me a line across there, and I'm going to use that as a mirror line, because what I can do now is I can click and get those two ends. Click in the middle of this line and rotate them around. Notice I get my end the way I want it. I should have went ahead and done this down here the exact same way. So I'm going to click here, same thing, drag it around, click there. So now I've got my ends the way I want them. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and trim. So there's that. Remember, we're not showing this in the middle of the post, so I can go ahead and trim that out. Oops, got one too many. Better hit undo. Let's hit undo one more time. There, now let's get the one that we want. We want to keep the bottom board, so we want to get rid of that one. And now we want to get rid of these two. So there's my deck board going around there and my end. So that looks pretty good. Okay, the other thing that we need to do also is we need to put another 4x4 in the middle of this, because this is too long of a run. If I click from here back to here, we've got 15 feet 8 inches, and that's too long. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this line that I used just a minute ago. I want to shorten it down so I can get a midpoint. What I'm doing is the inside edge of the 4x4 to the inside edge of the 4x4. Now I'm going to go to line, and I want to center it on that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hover, drag over and say 2 inches. I'm going to drag it up like that. Okay. And now I'm going to drag this all the way down to the ground, because this support's going to have to go all the way to the ground. Now we'll have to trim some parts out. Now I'm going to offset that 4 inches to put in a 4x4. And I need to go this way because I offset to the right to start with. So that's got that in the correct place. I can get rid of this line now. And again, I can go in and trim out what I don't need. I can do it right now, or I can wait till later. I think I'll go ahead and do it now just to clean it up. So I'm going to hit my right mouse click. Of course, I'm going to get rid of that. And I'm going to get rid of the outside edge of the post because that goes behind the band. Okay, this goes behind the railing. So what I want to do is I want to zoom in. I want to get these little pieces here. And what's going on here is the 4x4 is on both sides of that picket or banister. So I'm going to leave that. What I do want to do is I want to come down here and I want to get rid of this where it's behind the actual step itself. So there is what that should look like. Okay? So I cleaned it up. And then we'll get out of that command. So now I'm ready to put in those rails that we talked about. Now we do have an offset. If we come back over here and look, if you notice, I've got a horizontal member here. I've already got my skirt and my handrail up top. That horizontal member is 3 inches off the platform. Okay? And then this horizontal member is 2 inches thick. So if I come out here, I go into line, hover here at the top of my deck board, drag up and say 3 inches, drag across, and let's drop it right into place right there. And then I'm going to have one going through here as well that we'll see. So again, line, hover, drag up, or I could have hovered there and drag up, one of the two. Type in 3 inches. I'm going to drag it all the way across here, and I'll trim out what I don't want. There we go. And now what I can do is I can go offset 2 inches, because that's the bottom of the board, and there's the top of the board, and then this one as well. So there's that. Now again, I'm going to have a lot to clean up over here. So let's go ahead and take care of this area first. Now the neat part about it is I can cheat a little bit because I know that my spacing is exactly what I want. If I zoom into these balusters and measure, you know, we said the balusters are 2 inches wide. There we go. The measurement between the balusters are 3 inches wide. So if I click here to here, we're going to see that it's still 3. Okay, and 3-inch spacing is good. It's got to be less than 6, and I personally like less than 4. So 3 inches is what I always space my balusters at. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just copy a couple of these. I'm going to grab it at the edge, and I'm going to put it at the edge right there. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and trim these down. I'm going to use this as my cutting edge and trim these down. So there's my height, okay, and good spacing there. Now I'm going to use my copy command. I'm going to grab one of them. I could have grabbed them both. I'm going to use the inside edge to the inside edge every time. And watch what happens when I do this when I get over here. When I get to here, if you notice, it lines up that inside edge with that. Well, this is 3 inches, and this is flat against that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into Move, and I'm going to grab all of these balusters. And I've got 3 inches clear over here and none clear over here, so I'm going to slide them this way 1.5 inches. And that will dead center them between the two. So that's got my pickets spaced out correctly right there. Works out pretty nice, doesn't it? Okay? So now what I need to do is I need to come in here and do the very same thing here. Ooh, I just saw something right here. This is kind of interesting. See all this right here? I never did clean this up. So let's sort of clean up what we've got right here. All right, that's going to go to right there. Okay? This is the handrail going down. I'm going to trim there. Because see that handrail is going across. I'm going to trim here. And what we've got here, this needs to go. That needs to go. Look in here. Little bitty tiny thing. That needs to go. This needs to go here. Okay? And then I need to get rid of that part right there. And that part right there. Now we zoom out and look. That cleans up my handrail going down the rail. Okay? And we'll do some more of these here in just a minute as far as cleaning up goes. So, let's bring these over and do the very same thing over here that we've got, okay? So again, I'm going to start with that 3. So I'm going to go copy. I'm going to grab both of these off of that endpoint, and I'm going to move them to right here and then trim them down and get them the right length. So I'm going to use this as my cutting edge and trim them down. Now let's see how many of these I get across here. So I'm going to go copy. I'm going to go ahead and do 2 at one time this time. Inside edge, inside, 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 inside. What we're going to get? Inside. So now, look, it fit, but there's a gap here. Let's see what we've got. So if we measure from here to here, we've got 2 inches. If we measure from here to here, we've got 3 inches. So this is 2 and this is 3. If we slide it 1/2 inch that way, all those 1/2 inch that way, we'll get the exact same spacing. So let's slide it that way, horizontally, 0.5 inches. Now we've got 2.5 inches here and 2.5 inches here. That works. Okay, that's good spacing there by doing that. All right, now we need to finish these out. And what we can do is we can use our pickets that's coming down through here to here. Because if we notice here what we've got, it should work out okay. So I'm going to just come in now. And because I want them to line up, it'll make it real nice and neat. I can say extend up to here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to push that up, that up, that up, that up, that up. See what I'm doing? And I want to get down to where my first one is long enough to show outside the rail. And this next one will do it right there. So I want this one. And that's as far as I'm going to go for right now. Because what I'm going to do is now I'm going to go back into trim. And there are other ways of doing this now. So I'm going to click here and click, oops, undo. Let's go back into trim. Let's select cutting edges, the outside edges of the rail. And now I'm going to use a command that you've probably not used yet. See this fence down here? A fence is a crossing. So I'm going to click on fence. I could just type in the letter F otherwise. And I'm going to draw a line across all of these, all the way down to here. Okay? And click. And notice it automatically cleans it up. It's pretty neat, huh? Okay? So that's really good that I can do that. And now I'm going to go back into trim. I'm going to use this as my cutting surface here. Actually, I need to trim in the middle of these pickets. So I'm going to hit select all. And what I'm going to do is, because these pickets do show, look here, I'm going to do this. And see, because the pickets show. Make sure you're getting in the small space, not the big space. Every time. Zoom in, make sure, oh, look at there. There's one. Here's some more. Let's zoom in and see. Yep, that one, believe it or not, that needs to stay. Okay, so see how much cleaner that looks now? Same thing down here, because we've got that band going across there. So we're going to click here. That's going to be seen. Again, get the small one every time. And when you zoom back out, you'll see why this makes a difference. So that one needs to go right there. That's in the rail, so that needs to go. That needs to go. And then look, at that point, we're clear again. Okay? Now let's trim back to this. Okay? And then what we want to do is we want to trim out here because these end here. And this is one of them cases that now that I look at it, I go, oh no, I shouldn't have trimmed that out. Well, this is where the join command can come in handy. If I go join and I click here and here, and I click all of these across here, let's see what happens if I click all of these across here. Oh, cool, look, it did it. So now let's click all of these. Because this board needs to show all the way across. Okay? So that's kind of neat. And then when I get to looking at it, I go, oh no, I did screw up. Well, the good part about it is because these are the actual rails for the handrail coming down, not the rail for the patio. That's why undo is such a great tool. Because I can go back to where I was at, which is right there, and it's clean again. Everything's okay. So if you do mess up, it's okay. You can fix it. All right? So I'm going to do a copy again. I'm going to grab them two. I'm going to get this edge, and I'm going to stay to the outside because I started on the outside. And there we go. So see, our banisters work out. Everything looks good. The only thing we've got to do here is clean up right there. So if I go to trim, there we go. And look, my deck is done. There it is. Turned out really nice. So how do I get it in position? Well, I've got these vertical lines drawn, and these line up with the actual rail, okay? So the one thing I am going to do, I'm going to hit undo. I'm going to trim again because when I hit undo, I've messed this up. I forgot to get out of the command. Now then, so see this line, this great big long line? It lines up with the outside edge of this 4x4. So I'm going to go to move, copy the whole thing. I'm going to get the end point here, and I'm going to take it to the end point here. There's my rail in place. Pretty neat, huh? So now I'm going to get rid of these lines because I don't need them anymore. And just like I did with the windows and the doors over here in the front view, I need to come in this and I need to do some trimming out of the doors and stuff and the windows and things. So I'm going to go into explode. I'm going to start with the door. I'm going to click on explode. That's pretty much got everything that I need. Yep. So I'm going to zoom in tight. I'm going to say explode. And I've already done that and get it exploded. If I need to explode some more stuff, I can. I'm going to go ahead and explode that window. I'm going to explode these doors because I know I'm going to need to. Okay. Everything that needs exploding. Now I'm going to hit enter. Now I'm going to zoom in and go, okay, let's go into trim and hit all. And what do we need to get rid of? Because the post is in front of everything. So you see right there, I did the wrong thing. I was supposed to keep the post and not the door. So hit undo and go this way instead. And this is an opportunity where you can go all the way down and click. If you miss something, come back in and get them. Okay? So there it is. This is one of these cases where you got to be really careful because look, the edges of the glass there. I needed to get that as well. Okay? Now while I'm over here on this side, I'm going to go ahead and get out of this command and get rid of these two lines that's inside the post that didn't trim out. Look, there's a little dot. Let's get rid of that. Okay? So now back into trim. This is behind something, so I want to get rid of it. and there. That's all I need to get rid of from my door. Now my windows, let's go in and see what we need to get rid of here. Again, this fence command, F and enter, or hit fence down at the bottom. I can go all the way across down to here and click on it. Worked out really nice. Okay, so I can go back into trim again, hit select all. Now here I'm going to, and see what's happening is it don't want to let me do this, so what's happening somewhere in here, we've got something that's not going to trim out the way I want it to. So I sort of have to be careful and look. So right there, that's behind the rail. I'm going to have to just erase that. Now let's go back into trim again. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. So why is this not trimming? Well, let's click on it and see, oh, it's an individual line. Okay. So now let's go back into trim and hit enter. There we go. What else? All of this is in behind that rail, so I need to get rid of all of this. Okay. And then if you notice, there's going to be some pieces that's left. So here I need to just click and delete, click and delete. And what you're going to do, go back into trim again. I found another little piece down here. Okay. Then you zoom out and you look at it and go, oh, right there something's got to go. Now these are little B segments, so I can just click and delete them. Okay. So there's all of that. Oh no, I've got pickets. I didn't get all of it. So I come back into trim. So I've got a picket here. So anything horizontal needs to go, basically, inside the pickets. Make sure you're doing the narrow. Okay. So anything that's inside the narrow. And again, horizontals. All right, so now look what we've got here. That line's got to go because it's inside of a picket. These two've got to go. All of a sudden, I find another horizontal I need to get rid of. This takes a little bit of time. Okay, there's another one that's got to go. Now zoom back out and look at it again. Yep, got it clean. It looks really good now. Okay, now let's go up and do our doors up here. So let's go back into trim, select all. Let's zoom in. Anything going across this handrail needs to go. So let's just come all the way, and be careful right here. I want to get to right there. I want to get that, and that, and that. I want to get both of them. I want to get both of them. Both of them. See, all this stuff needs to go right here. Anything at all that's behind that. So all of this can go. That can go. That can go. Okay, so that's pretty much got that cleaned up on that part of it. Now I'm going to go ahead and erase these little horizontals here that I can't get by trimming. That's hidden by the rail. And then I'm going to come zoom back a little bit, and I'm going to zoom back in. I'm telling y'all, you've got to pay attention, because if you don't, you'll mess something up. I'm going to go back into trim again. And this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to go trim, and I'm going to select cutting edge. I'm going to select here and here. And that'll help protect me. Now I can come in and get rid of stuff a lot easier. Okay, that one's fully inside. That one I can select. Okay, I'm going to zoom in, see if I've missed anything there. That one's completely inside, so I'll just have to erase it here in a minute. Okay. See there, I'm cleaning all that out of the rail that way. There's another one that can go. All right. Now let's find some more door stuff. We'll get rid of this. Okay. And now I need to clean out behind the pickets down here at the bottom. This is the tedious part, everybody. So I'm going to click. I'm going to select all. Remember, find the narrow. This is the wide. This is the narrow. That's part of the window. You've really got to pay attention right here. Okay. That one. Scroll down. That one. I'll come back and get that line here in a minute. Don't get anything here because that's in the white spot. Look here. There's a little bitty line that I'm going to have to get here in a minute. Okay. Getting pretty much all the stuff up there. Down here now I need to pay attention. What have we got here? So narrow, narrow. That's wide. That's good. We can leave it. Okay. We've got our horizontal band in there, which will fall behind it. So we've got to click here. Oh no, so we need to go to trim. And now that part will go. What have we got going on here? That is, if I zoom back and look, edge of the door down here, so that needs to go. Okay, so there's that. Now this line will go away. Delete that one. Now where else have we got some? Here's one. Delete that one. There's one. Delete that one. Okay, so that cleans that up. Now because these pickets are going through here, I do need to trim this because that's the deck board behind it. So I need to trim every one of these. So if I go to trim and enter, now we need to get every one of these. Because they're behind the pickets on the stairs, not on the deck itself. So now let's back up and look at it a little bit. And here's where we want to look real careful and see if we missed anything. Yep, right there. See it? There and there. All right, so now here, this is where we've really got to pay attention. What have we got coming across here? Narrow, narrow. And where's my next narrow at right here? So I've got a bunch of lines going on. So I need to find out where my width is right here. Because something is off. Something's amiss right here. And I've probably deleted a line that I shouldn't have deleted. So I need to look really careful. I'm going to measure. I'm going to go from here to here, and that's 3 inches. And that's 2. Here to here is 3 inches. So that means right there's 2 inches. Right there's something else I've got to trim. Trim, select all. Zoom in, get rid of that. That means get rid of that, delete that. Okay, so now that line's going to go all the way up. Now I can see that. That looks a lot better. So now let's check from here to here. So that's 3 inches. That line right there, the one on the inside's got to go. Okay, now, I'm telling you, it really gets confusing. Believe it or not, that's correct. That's what we're going to see, okay? Y'all have been doing this a long time, and you will miss lines. I don't care what you do, you're going to miss lines, all right? Now I'm going to get rid of that line because I don't need that floor line anymore on both sides. Okay? And look, there's my deck standing there. Ain't that nice? Okay, so that's putting in the deck. That's putting in the porch. We talked about putting in the porch here. Now we've got to have the deck on the back side. That deck is 10 feet out, plus 4 more feet for the actual, see here? I've got it turned upside down, but it's 10 feet out, plus 4 more feet here for the stairs. I've got to do the very same thing here that I've done here. So how am I going to do that? And is that going to take a long time? You know, what's it going to do? So I want to say offset a line 10 feet, which is 120 inches. So right there's where my porch is going to. I'm going to take this line and drag it out, make it longer. Okay. So right there's where I'm going to. I am going to cheat. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to use part of this and see what I can do right here right off the bat. So I'm going to go copy. And I'm going to grab the whole end of this. I'm going to go over. Now remember, I was at 16 feet originally, so I know that I won't get all the way to the edge if I go all the way to there. So I'm going to go that far to start with. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this because I'm 10 feet out. That's to the edge of the deck, which is the edge of the floor before. I'm going to grab that point and I'm going to drag it across, straight across, and I'm going to click it right there. So that's at the right point. I can go ahead and get rid of this line. Okay, so there's the edge of my deck. Now trim. I can go ahead and trim these out. I don't need this floor line anymore, so I'm going to get rid of it. Okay. I'm going to go back into trim. Trim that out. And now I'm going to do an extend and get these on over to where they go. So there's that. Look, see, this happens pretty quick, so this is kind of nice the way this happens. So now all I need to do is finish filling in my balusters, or if you want to call them pickets, either one's work. I'm going to do 2 at a time just for the fun of it, just to see how far I get. And I'm working to the outside, so these 2 can go. Delete. So that is a 2-inch there. How much gap have I got here? I want them centered both ways. Click, click. That's 2.5. Measure on this end. Click, click. That's 1.5. So I need to move everything over 1/2 of an inch this way because I want to get them both at 2. Slide them this way, 0.5. And again, you always want to go back and measure 2 inches there. Do distance again, 2 inches there. Good job. So there, just that quick, I've got that part done. Okay? So the only thing I need to do now is put my stairs in. So how am I going to do that? Well, I've got the very same setup here that I've got on the other end. So I've already got my post put in there. This little point right here is going to end up moving. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I can reuse this whole configuration right here. So I'm going to say copy. I'm going to grab this. I'm going to grab that. I can use the bottom of my deck from the other side, so I don't need that. I'm going to go ahead and grab these posts here. I'm going to grab the bottom of my rail here. Okay, so I can, and I may go ahead and get this. Let's go ahead and use this and see what happens. Okay, I'm going to grab that. Grab that. I may end up having to fix something, but it'll be okay. I'm going to hit enter, and my base point, and what happened is I accidentally reset my base point. I'm going to go back into copy again and do it one more time. So I'm going to grab all of these, and I'm going to grab that. Okay, I'm going to wait and just use this up here in just a second. Okay, I'm going to grab this. I'm going to say enter, and now because I'm working off the inside, I'm going to click here, which is that point of the post. That's what I do. I'm going to drag over, and I'm going to click here, and that will line it up exactly right. Okay, so how do I get this over here? Well, watch. I'm going to use stretch. Get the end of that. I'm going to grab it here and drag it all the way out to here. There we go. Okay, and now I'm going to trim up what I need. So that's going to go away. That's going to go away. Okay, there we go. Cleans that up pretty good. All right, now let's get rid of these. We don't need these. Same thing here. I need to stretch this. The only problem is, see what happens here? Is if I try to get both these, I'm going to get the end of that. So I sort of need to do this in 2 steps. So I'm going to grab all of this. Notice what I'm grabbing is just the end of that. Okay, I didn't get any of the rest of this. And now I'm going to back up. I'm going to hit enter, and I'm going to get the end of this rail. I'm going to go out to the end of the rail. There's that. And now I can come back in and get this same thing. End of the rail to the end of the rail. And that will put it in the right place. Okay, so there's the start of my landing going down. Now, my steps go down through here. Again, how much of it am I going to see? Well, if you're going to see the back of the steps, what we're going to see is just the 2 pieces of wood going down, but we're not even going to see that. So we could make them open steps and show them, or we could show our actual, just the back wall of the steps. And by doing that, what we can do is we can say, this line here, I'm going to offset it. Remember the distance 7/3, dash /3/16, 7 3/16. I'm going to offset it one time right there. Now I'm going to trim to the inside of these 4x4s because that's all of those we're going to see. And now I'm going to go offset again, same distance. I'm just going to single line it right there. You could double line it if you wanted to. But that's got it in the right point. You know, like I said, if I wanted to offset and say 1 inch, just to really make sure I've got a good look. And I'll tell you something else about this too. We would have a middle stringer in here. As wide as these steps are, with them being 4 foot wide, we would probably have a center stringer. So what does that mean? Well, we would have a 2-inch wide bar going down the middle of it. So there's that. And the way we would do that is I would go line from the middle of this bottom one. I'd slide over here and say 1 inch. Take it all the way up to here. I would offset that 2 inches back the other direction. Now I can take and I can extend these down to the ground. Okay. And now I can use the trim command. Okay. I'm going to hit enter for select all. I'm going to click fence or F, either one. Get right between them two. Click right there. Drag straight down. Click. And right there's what your steps would look like on the back side. Okay. Because it's solid wood here. And then the edge turned back there like that. So you you may see the edge of the board. So that right there sort of gives it that look that we're after. This kind of muddies the issue and is kind of confusing. If you want to, you can leave the stairs out for clarity and put a note on it. Stairs left out for clarity. You can do that if you want to. Or you can leave that middle stringer out. Let's go back and see what it looks like without the middle stringer. Does that look better, or does that look like a ladder right there? Let's go back a couple more commands and see what it looks like without it at all. How's that look? Still kind of looks like a ladder, don't it? Let's back up one more and get rid of them all. And just do it like that. That may be the best look that we use. Just for now. And we can put a note on here saying stairs left out for clarity. Okay? Alright, so I'm going to stop there because that's over an hour. That's a long video. Okay? You need to take this in chunks. And then we'll go from there. Y'all have a great day. I hope this helps get you stairs and your porches and everything put in there and trim it out nice and clean. And then we'll finish up on the next video, and I promise it'll be short. Have a great day.